just depends on which tea as to which trays will get used and then how long they're in here. And withering is just controlled moisture loss. So black and green, we use the bamboo trays for. These are also straight out of China. They're the ones that are mostly used in the tea world. The larger places use big troughs and stuff like that, but we still use these, and we'll probably always use these. So green will go onto those first thing in the morning. We do our green tea a little bit differently than any of the Asian markets. So we do a conditioning step. So they're going to be in here for about 4 to 6 hours before we do their heating step. And we do steam mostly. We do some pan firing, but not a lot. But we do steam. And then we cool it off in an ice bath. And then we actually run it through a salad spinner. And then it'll come back into this room. And it'll be here for another 4 to 6 hours to finish off its withering. So traditionally, it gets plucked, it gets brought in, and they immediately start. So whether they're steam it or pan fired or whatever. But that allows some of those astringent notes and bitter notes to stay in the tea. And we found doing the steps that we do takes it out. So we no longer have to worry about it. Black tea, same thing, is going to go onto these trays, but it's going to sit here for about 16 hours. So it'll be the next morning before we start it. It'll leave this room. And then oolong and yellow, we both have to do a sun withering step, but we can't do it outdoors for a couple of reasons. During the middle of our summer, the heat is too intense and they'd be crispy little potato chips. And then second reason is what the USDA and FDA require us to build to do that. So we figured out what we needed in the UV spectrum, found lights to match that same exact spectrum, and built the racks that are there on the back wall. So those are UVB10 light bulbs. So they're not normal row bulbs. Yellow and oolong both go underneath those lights for 6 hours. After the 6 hours, yellow is completely done in here. Oolong, however, we will pull off of that rack and it goes into this bin right here. So this is just a tumbler, spins around and around. This will happen for 2 hours, or for 10 minutes every 2 hours until about 10 o'clock at night on the first night. Then we'll shut it off and leave it open just like this with fans running. Come back the next morning at 7 a.m. and start the process over. And then it'll do that until it's time for it to go. Oolong can usually take up to about 36 hours in total in this room.
Where did you learn all this stuff? Did you go to Taiwan?
So we went to, we've been to China, we've been to India. Our Japan trip got canceled with COVID and we've never rescheduled it. So we've got to reschedule it. And then we're also going to go to China, or not China, Taiwan. And then we want to go to Africa and see some of the stuff that they're doing there. So it's in the works to go to some of the places, but the way that we learned most of our processing is our consultant taught us the basics verbally, and then when it was time to do hands-on, he brought a lady in called Beverly Wainwright. She's actually the one, have you ever heard of Amba? She helped Amba Tea Estate get up and going.
Awesome.
And she got them going and did all of their processing for a while, so she came over and taught us the basics hands-on, and then taught us what we needed to work on. So like, how long do we wither, how long do we steam, how long do we oxidize, that kind of stuff we had to play with. And then from that, we figured out our recipes, basically. So she taught us all of the main stuff for black and green. And then when it came for oolong and yellow, it was, well, we know the basics of black and green, we just have to add in some steps for other stuff. So that's how we kind of figured it out, trial and error.
That's smart. What did you study back in college?
My degree is in business. I do not have an agricultural degree, nothing. Jason's actually, he has a degree in religious studies.
Okay.
And then he also has, he's a chef as well. So nothing that had anything to do with plants.
Yeah, you guys are very adventurous.
So we
Lots
just
of-
play as we
Yeah.
go. So like I said, we've had many different businesses. So we've had a coffee shop, a catering shop, a business, a restaurant, a check cashing and cash for titles business, a used car dealership, and now we have the tea farm. We also have a timber farm, and then we have a medical marijuana farm as well. So we have 3 businesses that we run currently. I mostly deal with the tea farm.
Oh, you must have a tea farm. Oh, you got all the certifications.
Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
some awards and stuff
Yeah.
that we won. So the TOTUS Awards were the first ones that we won. So they were the Tea of the United States Awards, and they were on the Big Island of Hawaii. And it was one of the first years we had started actually processing tea.
What's this one?
So this was when we went to China.
Oh, they gave you.
We were actually, Jason was there first, and he was there on a USDA trip. So they gave him a bunch of gifts and stuff like that.
You know, I recently found through the YouTube channel, there's a one American guy. He's originally from New York. He actually had a PhD in tea
Oh,
from China. And, you know, maybe I can share with you his YouTube videos. He had 6 episodes or 8 episodes. It's one like the most amazing, you know, he'll talk about how to drink tea, then the chemistry of tea, you know, all the stuff. Very, very interesting.
yeah. So if you like the chemistry and everything else, if you will look up Virginia Lovelace, she has a Tea, A Nerd's Eye View. She just wrote another book that's a companion book to that. She's got about 4 or 5 books on tea. But she's an MD, but she also is a food scientist. And so she breaks it down on all the different chemicals. She actually worked with somebody and created a scent of tea kit to where it's all 47 different chemical compounds within tea. And they're in little vials so that you can smell them and stuff like that. And how they all work together to create different flavors and all that kind of
Great,
stuff.
yeah.
So, yeah, she's wonderful. So this is our current roller that we have. Our very first one was much smaller than this, but we did hand roll for the first year, and then we bought a roller and a dryer on our second year. So, of course, rolling, one of the main purposes is to get it shaped. With black tea, it's also for cell disruption. So we need to get all of the cells kind of to rupture and get all the juices flowing. So then oxidation happens the way it's supposed to. It takes 1 full hour to roll black tea. The design that's on the bottom plates, its main purpose is to keep the leaves pulled into that barrel and not just allow them to flatten out. It also helps twist on the inside of there the ball that it's creating so that it gets the twisting working the way it needs to. Then black tea is going to go onto those perforated trays, and then it's going to go into this cabinet that's right here. Yeah, that's our company that we buy all of our equipment from. Is in Hangzhou, and one of the motors on the dryers went out, and so he shipped me one, and the one that he shipped me, the first one, was one for a dryer bigger than ours.
Okay.
So I had to send him a message. I'm like, okay, I need to ship this one back to you, and I need the correct one. And he's like, I am not going to make you ship that back. It's going to cost you too much. I'll just ship you the correct motor. I'm like, okay, well, I'll keep it then in case we get the bigger one. So into this cabinet black tea will go. So this is oxidation. So they have what are called fermentation or oxidation cabinets in China, but a bread proofer does exactly the same thing, and it already existed in the United States. So we will keep the humidity between 85 and 100%. We will keep the temperature around 100, and then it's going to take 4 hours in that cabinet. So by the time it comes out of there, it's gotten to a nice golden brown. Then we will put it into the dryers here. And these are essentially just really big dehydrators, but they were calibrated especially for tea. Green, yellow, and black are all 3 gonna dry at 197 Fahrenheit, 90 Celsius, And then oolong is actually going to dry at 40 Celsius, 60 Celsius, 140 Fahrenheit. And that's because of the florals and the fruities you can get in oolong. They're going to burn off at about 168 degrees.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So we have to keep everything below that. Come on, this way. You even know. So, I told you we steam our current green tea. This is our current steamer. Our very first one was a crawfish pot. We made it work. Our next one was a burrito steamer. And now we have this one. So it takes us 2 minutes and 20 seconds to steam a batch of green tea. And then it will go into the ice bath, stops the cooking, into the salad spinner, and then we'll go back to that room. Green tea is the only one that will leave that room over there and come back. But once it leaves that room for the second time, its next step is to get rolled. This was the size of our first roller. It was the very small one. So this step in green tea is strictly for shape though. So it only takes about 20 minutes. So yellow tea, the way that we process our yellow tea is completely different than the Chinese method. So our consultant said, y'all need to try yellow tea. We had him explain it to us, what yellow tea was and everything else, and originally I told him he was nuts because of the way it was processed. So don't know if you know how it was done originally. So in China, they started off just like their green, pan-fired it, but then they would wrap it. And they would set it in some kind of box allowed to sweat. And then it needs to stay warm for the fermentation. So they would pull it out, reheat it, rewrap it, reset it to the side. And they do that over and over and over for 5 to 7 days. So when he explained that to him, I'm like, there's no way I can do this. I'm not sleeping out here, and my employee's not staying the night to do it either. So we figured out wrapping it up is to just restrict oxygen. So vacuum bags and vacuum sealers do that very well. And then it needs to stay warm throughout the entire process. So we came up with sous vide. So the water bath, we can keep whatever we want for however long we want it. So now our yellow tea comes out of there, comes back here, gets vacuum sealed into the vacuum bags, and then dropped into the sous vide at 158 degrees for 20 minutes. That's the same thing as if we'd steamed it or pan-fired it. Then we'll pull them out and cool them off and drop the temperature to 105, and then put them back in there, and they'll be there for 5 days. After that 5-day process, we'll pull them out, cut all the bags open, and dump them onto the trays that are over here, and allow them to breathe for 5 hours. So during this fermentation process, it allows lactic acid to build up, and the only way to get rid of it is oxygen exposure. So after sitting out for 5 hours, all that lactic acid's burned away. So then we can stick it in the roller, and just like green tea, strictly a shaping step. So comes out, off to the dryer, it'll go after that. So China is the largest producer of yellow tea. We heard there's a place in Korea that's making yellow tea, and then us. And then we've tried to help our friend in India learn how to start making yellow tea as well. But we've given him the instructions, but I don't think he's ever made one yet. So we'll see. And then our oolong is going to come out of there, come back here, and it's going to go into that machine right there now. That is just a panner, or an automatic wok. And we'll put the leaves in there and heat them up to about 140 degrees. And then we're going to start the rolling process. And then just because of those older leaves not staying pliable from withering, we'll have to reheat them. So we'll pull them out of the roller, reheat them in the panner, put them back in the roller. And they'll go back and forth and back and forth until we have them sufficiently rolled. And then we'll put them in the dryer and allow them to dry.
You have lots of machines, huh?
Yes. And we are quickly running out of room. So we're going to rearrange some stuff before next season. And we're like the dryers that are in there, we're going to move them out here completely, move the sous vide in there so that all of the major heat is out here in this room. So that we're not heating up in there as much as we normally do until the new facility is built, which we hope we'll have done by the end of next year.
Great.